afternoon and welcome. Parkway Elementary from Malibu, how are we doing? Welcome to the school drive this afternoon. My name is Steve Falconbridge. On camera I have Senzo again from this morning. Fantastic to be in the team again. Welcome to a sunny and warm South Africa. The skies have cleared. The bush is rejuvenating and the life is coming back. We are on the search this afternoon for Thandi, one of our local leopards who has a cub. She moved her this morning and Tristan was able to relocate on the position of where she moved her to a den, and Senzo and I are on that mission this afternoon to see if we can relocate on her. But for the moment we are just here, we're out, we're off-road, we're trying to find where she is. It's quite delicate stuff. You don't want to get too close to a den site where there's a mother and a cub. You want obviously to give them space, give them sensitivity and be very careful about what you're doing. So right now we are basically just here in the middle of the wilderness, seeing if we can hear anything, seeing if we can hear the small sounds of a cat calling its mother. It's quite an unmistakable sound and something that if you're on foot and you hear, your heart just begins to beat much faster and slowly your legs start to shake and the sweat starts to pour down the side of your head because you know there is imminent danger. But in a vehicle like this, with these cats, they're quite used to the vehicle, so we do spend a lot of time viewing them from the vehicle. But on foot, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that is a very, very different story. Because this is a place to be. We're not quite sure where she is. Could be anywhere in this sort of vicinity here. And if you can see around you, if Sens can just do a little pan, you can see that the bush is very, very thick. And for a leopard and a leopard cub, extremely camouflaged. Where could she be? Where could she be? So I believe the guys up in the Mara have been showing you some wonderful elephants this afternoon. How wonderful that must be. Elephants, definitely one of my favorite animals to view. Always doing something, always busy. Trunks and babies and water and eating and moving, constantly doing something. Leopards, when we do find her, probably not going to be doing too much. Atul, that's a very good question. Get a Kapi in South Africa? That is a no. A Kapi is more sort of Central Africa. It is a relative of the giraffe. We get giraffe down here, but a Kapi is something that's sort of what's the right word? It occurs there in the forests up there in the Central Africa, so no okapi here. But hopefully at some stage we might find you a giraffe, the tallest land mammal, huge and tall, long legs, long neck, adapted for its environment. Can you see anything, Sens? I don't see anything, but this is a patience game, this is a waiting game. There's water not far off, so the mother's brought the cub to a den site that has access to water. There are animals nearby. We saw lots of Impala down by the water drinking. And as everybody knows, we need water to survive. Without water, we cannot continue. We cannot do our normal bodily functions. And so we have amazing conditions this side. And we're going to do our best to see if we can find anything. And I would like to see if Ralph up in the Mara is able to communicate with me and see if he can mimic orange-breasted bushrike. I believe you guys are playing a game, so let's see if Ralph can do an orange-breasted bushrike.
Thanks, Steve. Orange-breasted bushrike, that's an easy one. We'll get to that in a minute. But welcome to all the kiddies from the Parkway Elementary, and lovely to have your topic of science, and we'll do our best to answer all your questions. Please send them through your teacher. And here we have some plains zebra who very often frequent the Maasai Mara here in Kenya. Them, and along with the wildebeest, they normally move in tandem or together. Feed grass, or the top parts of the grass, and they're not very picky, so they'll eat whatever grass is there. And the wildebeest are a little bit more picky around, because the zebra prepare the grass for the wildebeest. So if you're wondering why you see the zebra migrating and then you see the wildebeest, well, that's why, because the wildebeest like going behind the zebra, and you'll often find wildebeest just randomly following zebra around, and that's why they very nicely fit together in what they eat. They're all eating grass. Not like your elephants, which will eat grass and branches and leaves and all sorts, and your giraffe, which will eat on the leaves on the top of the trees. They also like a little bit of grass, but zebra and wildebeest, they'll only eat grass. So nice and interesting there. Kiddies, send your questions through and we'll do our best to answer. I wonder if any of you know what kind of animal that is. If you have the answer, quickly send it through. And there's another one of them. And they both lying down in the grass, just relaxing a little bit. And there's another one feeding, also got some grass that he's munching on. But he's very different looking to the zebra, isn't he? He's more brown, he doesn't have the black and white stripes. And he's got horns. The zebra don't have horns, do they? So that's very interesting. So Yen and Aubrey, you're wondering how big are zebras? Well, Yen and Aubrey, if you've ever seen a donkey, well, the zebras are like donkeys in pajamas. That's what I say. Or they're ready to go to jail, aren't they? Because they're wearing their jumpsuits. But they are exactly the same size as your average donkey. And they've got lovely black and white stripes. And if you're wondering why they've got black and white stripes, well, when there's a lot of zebra all together on the plains, and they're trying to stay safe from the lions, who are always looking to eat a tasty lion, a tasty zebra, sorry. And so the black and white stripes, when they run next to each other, it makes it very difficult for the lions to spot only one zebra, because all those lines are going past each other, and it's like if you take your fingers like this, Manu, and you run them past each other like this. That's what the black and white does for the predators. Very difficult for them to then identify just one animal, which is what they want to do. So we've been watching these animals here, and I'm sure we're going to stay here a little bit longer. So send us all your questions and comments. And I think my good friend Taylor has got another wonderful animal to show you.
Pretty spectacular that you've joined us on a safari this afternoon, and hopefully we're going to show you a whole bunch of wonderful animals. Now we're looking at the Waterback at the moment, and you've already seen lots and lots of different critters, and we'll hopefully show you some more. My name is Taylor, and on camera with me today is Archie, and we are both very, very happy to have you join us. And I look forward to your questions. So like Ralph said, you can just ask your teacher away and then they'll get back to us. But these creatures are really, really, really interesting. Now, we've just had a lot of rain. So all these marshy areas, so the areas there's lots of grass and it tends to be quite waterlogged, which is where a lot of the animals are eating at the moment. They're spending lots of their time out here grazing, because all the vegetation is nice and lush. So it's delicious and really, really good for them. It's like eating really fresh fruit and vegetables, which is of course very good for you. And they're one of my favorite antelope species. I'll tell you why in a minute. And Kate, I think we have a telepathic connection, you and I. You just read my mind. You were wondering, why is it called a waterback? And I was actually just about to tell you why they're one of my favorites. So these animals are water dependent, and what water dependent means is that they have to drink water every single day, kind of like you and I do, how we should be drinking a couple of glasses of water at least every single day. And then they've got a really special adaptation. Now, every animal out here has got a specialty in order to help it survive against the harsh conditions out here. And all the thick fur are sebaceous glands. So those are these glands that basically let out an oily substance. And essentially what that does is it helps waterproof their coats, and it's amazing. The hair of a waterback is actually quite hollow, so it also helps them to not sink. So that's why they like to hang around in these marshy areas, and you often see them when they're frightened running across shallow rivers or even a deep river. They're quite good swimmers, and then they'll be able to outswim and then outrun their prey on the other side. So that oily substance doesn't let the hair absorb the water, and then having that extra buoyancy, it helps them go through the water a lot quicker. And then when they come out the other side, they're not completely dry, but they're a lot drier than what was maybe chasing them. So that'll give them a chance to get away. So how cool is that adaptation for these creatures? But these are just the girls. Ooh, excuse me. That was a big sneeze. A few of them were looking at me, but not all of them. I think they've heard many people sneezing before. But just making sure that it's not a threat, so they all put their heads up, except that one. That one doesn't care. So the boys, the male waterbuck, have got the most beautiful horns, and they curve forward. Now, the species of waterbuck that we're looking at is called the Dafasa waterbuck, and in South Africa, there is another type of waterbuck, so you're going to have to ask James or maybe Steve to try and show you a common waterbuck, and then you can see the difference. The common waterbuck is actually my favorite, but don't tell these ones. But we're going to carry on and see if we can maybe find you some lions or perhaps a predator of some sorts of things. And James is, of course, out on bushwalk in South Africa, and we'll have to ask him about those waterbuck.
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody at Parkway Elementary School. Welcome to this end of the Sunset Safari. My name is James, and I am on foot. Well, actually, I'm on my bottom at the moment. I'm sitting on a termite mound. You can see here, beyond us, we've got a number of wildebeest and zebra and impala, and hopefully in here we don't have any snakes, because if there's one thing that will ruin my afternoon, it's being bitten on the bottom by a snake. Snakes quite like to live in these termite mounds once the termites have gone away. And I think you'll probably find that there are some termites still in here because there's no grass on top of this mound. You can see that. But there are also other things living in here. There are spiders. I can see spiders webbing over here. There we are. And I can also see that there are probably some mongoose in here. Mongoose are very small carnivores, about the size of a large rat, and they go living in amongst these holes here. Now, it's lovely to have you with us, and so please ask me any questions you like. All you do, of course, is ask your teacher. She will relay it to our control room, and they will relay it into my ear. And magically, you'll hear your name, and I will answer any questions that you might have. Now, our plan today, as we walk around on foot here in the wilderness, is to go and see if we can't find the tracks of a big male leopard called Tingana. Now, he was seen just over this hill here yesterday evening, and this morning these animals here, the zebra and the wildebeest and the impala, were making a noise like this. They were going we think that is around here somewhere. We don't have to worry too much. We can walk around on foot because the animals here see us, yes, as predators, which means normally they stay away from us. So it becomes perfectly safe to track leopards on foot. Now, Micah and Nate, you're wondering where zebras get their stripes from. Well, that's a difficult question to answer. But I would say they get their stripes from the same place that you get your hair color. Now, of course, you kids are all very young, which means that all of you still have hair. You can see that those days are over for me, unfortunately. But for a zebra, and for you guys, the hair comes from something called a follicle inside the body. And in a zebra, of course, they're very lucky. They've got two kinds of follicles, sometimes three. They produce white hair and they produce black hair. So although a zebra looks like it's been painted, it hasn't been painted. All of those stripes are made up of thousands and thousands of little hairs, both black and white ones. So it's just the same as the fur on a dog or the hair on your head or the fur on a rat, for example. Now, we're just going to walk very carefully along here because a leopard would like to live in the tree line. They wouldn't be out in the open like this, and so we'll walk along this tree line here. Now, Hope and Diamond, you're wondering if zebras are afraid of snakes. You'll find they're probably not terrified, but they will react to snakes. And they'll react by either stomping on them or just moving away or looking at them like that, and you'll be able to see if there's something on the ground. But most importantly, a snake is probably more terrified of a zebra than a zebra is of a snake, because if a zebra is very big, you can see them over there. They probably weigh, the big ones, in the region of 800 pounds, which is enormous. And so what they will do is move along the ground, and that makes a noise, and snakes can feel that noise of them moving along the ground, and the snakes will hide somewhere in a hole perhaps. Now, I spotted something quite nice over here. There it is. Unfortunately, it's just flown away, but it's landed. Now, we're going to test VM, who's on camera now. We're going to see how skillful he's feeling today. Ooh, it's flown away again. It's a butterfly called an acria. You see it, VM? Right, there it is, opening and closing its wings. Now, I know that you guys are in the middle of winter, but we here in South Africa are in the middle of summer. And so we've got lots of beautiful insects around. And that's one of them. That's a butterfly there. And if you listen very carefully, you can perhaps hear the sound of the cicada, or what you would call in America a cicada. And it's a little bug about this big, and it's going... And it thinks that that's a beautiful song to be singing to female cicadas, and so he's hoping to attract a mate. Now, let us head straight back to Steve, who's got a much closer look at some of those.
If they come to me and you can get that hornbill, welcome back, folks. We've got some Impala down by the pan, and just off to the left of him, if you have a quick look quickly, Sens, there's that hornbill in the grass there. All the Lion King followers out there will be very familiar with that bird. There he is, Zazu. Southern red-billed hornbill. And he is running around in the grass, probably feeding on ants, termites, insects, anything juicy and succulent down there, but most likely will be insects at this time of year. We've had quite a bit of rainfall, and with the rain comes the swarms. Please feel free, folks, to send through your questions at Safari Live on Twitter or on the YouTube feed. You can see there's a group of Impala busy feeding. Very short, what looks like grass, but is in fact small little forbs. Small forbs are little herbs, or as you probably say in America, herbs. Lots of nitrogen, lots of nutrients, and they're growing just around this little water hole. You'll notice that they're in a group. You see that one's head is up. Quite a few of them. It's quite nice to be out in a group with some friends. Going out on your own is not so much fun if there's leopards lurking around, leopards and lions and hyenas lurking in the darkness. So what we have here is a group, a cooperative breeding group, whereby you have females and adults, youngsters, Kaylin and Savannah are asking how cold it gets in South Africa. We have varying temperatures. At the moment it is summer. It is getting up to the 85, 90 degree Fahrenheit. Today the temperature is a bit cooler than that, probably about in the 70s Fahrenheit, probably high 20s degrees Celsius. So we are in the summer months, no snow here, but beautiful, beautiful clouds. Wonderful time of year. Lots of insects, lots of baby animals, very, very green as we can see, and there's water in abundance. This is the time of plenty for your antelope. It's the time for them to get fat, to build up their condition. And just quite an interesting sort of note, if you see all these Impala here, all their heads are down, and it's because they can't be snuck up on. You can see that female. She deposited a cub in a den site this morning, but we weren't able to relocate on her, and it's best to rather leave the area, because if she's not there, we don't want to stress the cub out or cause any negative responses there, so rather just leave until mum comes back. And there we have what is not an Impala, but is definitely a male. Tell me what is feeding on forbs. It is feeding on grass.
Now, before South Africa, shall we show you what it looks like here in the Mara? How beautiful is this? I think our sky may win. It is always so spectacular. So that's the escarpment at the back called Olololo, and then those beautiful rays of light coming down and through the clouds are called crepuscular rays. Oh, isn't that stunning? Everything about the Mara is so beautiful. The birds that are chirping, all the different types of animals that we can see. There's more elephants. There's elephants everywhere today. They've all come out to enjoy the nice green grass, and in a few days' time it's going to be even greener. So they'll be happy about that. There hasn't been much rain around here, so the grass is getting a little bit dry. And then it gets a bit chewy, I suppose. Not that I eat grass all the time. Sometimes I pick a piece and I nibble on it. But you can see them all flapping their ears and swatting their tails. There's lots of flies and lots of insects around with all the water that is now here. I've even noticed that there are more flies than usual. Looks like she's been playing in the mud. Alice, you're wondering, where do flies sleep? That's an interesting question. I don't think I've ever been asked that before. I love it. So, what I've noticed is that flies will perch themselves, kind of just like birds. They want to keep out of the wind. They want to keep out of the rain. So, in trees that have got lots of leaves on them, on stems of plants and little shrubs. So, anything like that is typically where I've seen a gathering of flies at night. Sometimes they're naughty though, and they stay up way past their bedtime. But you're right, there are far few flies out at night than there are during the day. There's so many today. But luckily the elephants have got those big ears and those long tails to help combat them. And then that's also why they cover themselves in mud. And to keep nice and cool on the hot days out here in Africa. And then also all that mud will form a coating. So it'll form a layer between the skin. And then when the insects sit on them, it doesn't bother them so much. And if they've got any mites and ticks, that will actually help suffocate. It will kill all the parasites too. And then normally what an elephant does after it's had a mud bath and walked around for a little bit, it finds a sturdy tree and then rubs up against it and has a good scratch. So it'll actually pull off any of those parasites that are still around there. And there's a tiny little elephant. You can see it's so small that the grass is almost covering the top of its head. I'm trying to keep up. It must be difficult to see for that little elephant. I bet it's just following its siblings around. Now, Hope and Diamond, you're wondering, how big do elephants get in Africa? They get quite large. So they can weigh up to, the big boys, ones with the massive big tusks, can get up to about 5.5 tons, 5,500 kilograms. What's that? Like 11,000 pounds. Massive, hey? Isn't that incredible that they can get that big? Quite tall, as Not quite as tall as a giraffe. A giraffe takes the cake when it comes to being the tallest animal in the world, but an elephant is a close second. So the African elephants are quite big. But most of these are females, and that's typically what you find in the herds. So you have a family with the moms and aunts and grandmothers, and then they have all their children. So you might find that some of them are related for years and years. So it's the girls that stay in the herd, and then unfortunately when the boys become teenagers, a little bit past teenagers, they get a bit bossy and they start pushing around the little elephants, and their mom isn't too happy about that, and then they try, and they're a bit naughty with the moms too, and then the moms have to sort them out. So they normally chase them away, and then they have to go live on their own until they're big and strong, and will start looking for a girlfriend elephant, essentially. There's a little bird flying through as well. But this is one of my favorite times of the day. It's when all the birds are starting to call one last time before the sun goes down and they have to go to bed. You also hear all the insects making noise, and then they normally become a little bit quiet at night, although then the nighttime insects come out. Isn't that amazing? I'm hoping we don't get any rain today. These don't look like rain clouds just yet. Some of them are building, but for now I think we're okay. There's a little bit of a breeze, so it is pushing those clouds away. But it wouldn't be a problem if we had some more rain. It would actually be a good thing if we could get some more. Everything, of course, would be much greener. Now, I'm going to go to some lions that I know are not too far from the escarpment. It's going to take me a little while to get there. Unfortunately, I'm not sure who I'm sending you down to in South Africa. However, you might be faced with James on bushwalk looking for Tingana, or perhaps Steve is going to find a bird.
You can rip this one in reverse and go there.
And welcome back. I believe some of the questions the question I asked was, what antelope is this? What animal is this? And it is in fact a nyala, boys and girls. A nyala antelope. It is not a deer. Antelope, like the impala, like the nyala, like the kudu, have horns instead of antlers. And antlers are something that a deer will grow in the breeding season and then lose them as the breeding season diminishes or goes away. Whereas these horns grow progressively through the life of these animals. And those horns are for the same purpose. They're for fighting. They're for fighting males in the purpose of demarcating areas to look after females for the purpose of mating. Okay, so very similar in the purpose of the horns and the antlers, but I think it's much more different in the fact that the vegetation is different, different hormones used. We have the beautiful nyala bull and the impala in the pan, all quite happy. But to the left of us, though, we're having quite a lot of noises. The impala are starting to make a sound. The nyala that's over there is not looking too upset, but the impala are all looking in a certain direction. The wind slightly picked up just a degree, and if you look around here compared to what we looked at before, open area, now we have a much more closed area. This is prime leopard habitat. We're only about 100, maybe 200 meters from where we believe the leopard has its cub. Just because that wind picked up suddenly that scent of the leopard, that meat-eating carnivore. They don't bath very well, they don't have shampoo, and the smell on a cat is actually quite something to behold. Quite often you can walk along, you can find where a cat has been sleeping, and you can still smell it. Miss Adkins asks what time it is here, and it's about 4:30 in South Africa. And it's not too hot, and just to get out for the afternoon. That's when the game viewing tends to be at its best. That's when we often get predators and cats and things like that start moving around. And also, if you go out earlier than this in the summer, it's just way too hot to behold. Really, you need an extra layer of skin because the first two are going to burn off. But we're going to move around here. The impala seem to be calming down a bit. but let's see if we can go and relocate. There's definitely something going on in the thickets. Let's see if we can find something. But while we continue on this quest, this is going to be a quest that will take us a little bit of time. We're going to be moving around the slopes here, down the hill. We're going to go over to James, who is on a bushwalk, who I think has something quite interesting for you.
I do have something interesting. It's a gorgeous flower called a jasmine flower. Now remember, I said to you it was summertime here, and these jasmine flowers smell like sweet, sweet summer. Once more. You see, the wilderness has got so many interesting things and pleasant things to share with us, from that magnificently enormous elephant that you saw, all the way down to the little butterfly that we saw earlier, and now a sweet-smelling flower called jasmine. Now, the one thing also that I'm going to look for over here, oh, and I've just found one. Can you believe it? That's amazing. It's called a flea beetle. Now, a flea beetle is a kind of a beetle that only lives on this plant here, and I'll try and find it for you. They're quite difficult to catch. Now, while I look for it, because I did see it, but I seem to have lost it now. Anna and Jacob, you want to know if there's always this much grass in South Africa. No, there isn't. It's summertime, you know, and so we've had lots of good rain, and that means that because of the rain, there's lots of grass. And in winter, when it's very dry, there's no grass at all. Okay, I found him again. So this area that you can see here sometimes looks a little bit like a desert. Now, if you follow my finger, Wiem, you will see a copper-coloured beetle. Can you see it there? It's trying to hide. Let me put my finger on the other side. It's dropped. It's fallen off. I've lost it. Can you believe it? Let me try and find one more, because if we found one, there are bound to be a few more of them. Beautiful, shiny, light copper-coloured beetle, and the most interesting thing about them is that their babies are poisonous, and what some people out here called the Bushmen used to do is they would take the babies, which look like little worms, and they would put them onto their arrows when they were going hunting, and they would shoot the arrows into an animal, and the animal that they wanted to eat would then die, and that's what they'd eat. Isn't that clever? I can't believe I lost that one. Found it so quickly and then lost it again. That was very stupid of me. I'm obviously out of practice catching flea beetles. Anyway, we'll try just one more branch, and if we don't get lucky, we'll move along somewhere else. It's quite thorny in here, lots of thorns and spikes and things. You need to be careful that you don't stand on something that might stick into your foot. Oh, there, right here. Can you see it there, Wim? Mm-hmm. There we go, everybody. Jin, you want to know if they can bite me? No, they can't bite me. You got it? There is the beautiful flea beetle. And I will try and catch it, but they're called flea beetles because they can jump. Now, I don't know if you know what a flea is. It's like well, it's a very small insect, and it's able to jump very high because it's got very powerful back legs. Now, this little beetle has also got very powerful back legs. Now, I'll see if I can catch him for you, and then we'll see if we can have a better look. All right, Wiem, are you ready? I'm just going to try and snatch him off the leaf. I think I've got him, everybody. Okay. Yep, I've got him. finger. And if we're very careful and move very slowly, you might be able to see his very, very big back legs just sticking out. Can you see that? Isn't that cool? So he can jump a huge distance now. He's just trying to hide from me in this tree that I've picked. And his friend is just underneath there. Try and show you his friend. There we go. And his friend's actually got even bigger legs. Can you see the back legs there? Isn't that amazing? So it just goes to show how many wondrous things there are out here to smell, to see, to taste, to hear, and to feel. Marvellous. Okay, now we're going to be very careful. We're not going to squish him. We're not going to harm him in any way. We're just going to put him gently back onto the tree, and then they will carry on with their lives. Now, Justin, you're obviously quite interested in insects because you say, is he like a ladybird? Well, yes, he's got the same colour as a ladybird. And he's from what we call the same order, which is like an enormous family. So I suppose in some ways he's like a ladybird, but he's not a ladybird at all. Ladybirds are kinds of beetles as well, but there are thousands of different kinds of beetles in the world, and he's not very closely related to ladybird beetles. Good question, that one. We're still trying to find some tracks of our leopard. We haven't found any yet, but that's okay. It's the most beautiful day out here. The clouds are just providing a bit of shade because it can get very hot here at times. And there's just enough sunlight to keep us warm and to provide a beautiful light to everything we're looking at the moment. It's very special to be out here indeed. Now, Tia, Lamaya, Ariana, and Cameron, you really clever question. We don't have wolves like you have wolves there in the United States. We have something called a wild dog, which is like a wolf, but doesn't look like a wolf. It lives like a wolf, and it stands about this high off the ground. And it's brown and black and white, almost like it's been painted camouflaged. And they've got huge big ears that look like dinner plates. So those are the equivalent of our wolves, and they're quite closely related to wolves. But we do not have bears. There are no bears in Africa at all, except for ones that people have captured and brought here to put in zoos, for example. But there are no other bears that occur naturally here in Africa. You can find something called, I forget exactly what it's called. I think it's called a red wolf. It's not called a red wolf. It's called something else. Way up in the northern part of Africa, you used to get a wolf that lived up there. But at the moment, I don't know if any of them still exist. Now, we're walking through some thick bush, and so we need to be a little bit more quiet, because if you walk through thick bush, you need to be careful, because there could be something standing behind one of the bushes. There could be a buffalo, there could be an elephant, there could be a leopard. So now I'm going to be very careful as I walk through here, walking very silently, and while I do that, we're going to hand you back to the great, beautiful, magnificent Mara River with Ralph.
Yes, everybody, and look, we've come down next to the river and we've spotted some of the big animals that like to stay in the river. Look at that. There's a lot of hippos down there. And he's making a big display with his mouth open. There's a lot of them here. It's obviously a nice big deep pool that they're all gathering together and enjoying the nice cool water in the river. Now remember, hippos, they only go in the water so that they can stay cool and nice and fresh, because the sun makes them a little bit too hot, and they can also get very sunburnt. So they go in the water to stay nice and cool and hopefully not get sunburnt. And they go out of the water at night to go and eat grass. So they don't eat fish or anything in the water. They eat grass like cows do. So that's very interesting to know. There are some crocodiles around, but they're obviously staying away because there's lots of hippos here, and the hippos will chase the crocodiles away if they see them coming, because they also worry about their little babies getting eaten by crocodiles. So the hippos do look after themselves. And look at that. Now, Jordan, you're wondering how big is a hippo? Well, Jordan, a hippo, I want to try and get something that bigger than a zebra, but he's smaller than an elephant. And I can say, if you've got a very small car, like a smart car, he's probably about as big as that. I'm trying to think of what else we can use. Maybe as big as 5 people. The biggest people you've ever seen, put 5 of them together, and that's probably big. It's difficult to see them in the water because they stay underwater and they only put their ears and their eyes and their nose above the water. And they can hold their breath for about just over 5 minutes. So the next time you go swimming, try and see how long you can hold your breath. I promise you, you can't hold your breath as long as a hippo can, because they're very good at it. Look at that one. He's gone under. Let's see how long it takes him to come back up. He has to come back up because he needs to breathe air. He's a mammal, and all mammals need to breathe air. Let's wait for it. Ah, there he comes. That was about 2 minutes, I think, at the most. Maybe even 1.5 minutes. So, and look at that. You can tell between the girls and the boys. Now, Amani and Nevia, you're wondering, where do hippos sleep? Well, they sleep in the water where they are right now. They normally sleep during the day, and then they come out at night to eat grass. So some of them lie up a little bit on the bank, or they just snooze in between coming up for air and going back down again. And there's ones that are just in the shallow water, and you can tell between the males and one of the big males is very black around the eyes. So it's like your mom who likes to put makeup on. Well, the hippos also like a little bit of makeup because the ladies have all got pink around their eyes. And you won't find many males or boys here. Now, Yen and Aubrey, you're wondering, where are the baby hippos? I think there was a young little one a little bit further downstream. But we'll have a look at him now. You see them, they're climbing out of the water a little bit. It is very shallow there. You see they blow the air out of their nose. And they need to close their nose when they go underwater. It's like if you go in the swimming pool and you put your head upside down, all the water will go up your nose. Go underwater so that the water doesn't go in their nose. Now, Manu's looking downstream because there's some birds flying there. Those are Egyptian geese. But there's also, somewhere there's a small, not a baby, but a young one, more or less the age of you guys at school, 7 or 8. He's around there somewhere, a little youngster. We'll see if we can find him. I don't know if that's him. Some of them are quite tricky to see. They're a little bit shy. They don't want us to see them, so they just put their nostrils out and they take a breath and then they go under. Maybe they're just enjoying being under the water and they can just put their nose out. It's like if you have a snorkel and then you don't need to take your eyes out of the water. You can look around underneath and they've got built-in snorkels. Look at that. And did you hear that? Listen to that. You know why they do that? Because the hippos, they go underwater and they tell each other jokes. And then they come up laughing like that. So that must have been a really good joke. Because they were all laughing about that one. All right. Oh, hello. There's a crocodile. Oh, I don't know if he wants to hang around here. There's lots of hippos that are going to chase him away. All right, everybody. So this is a lovely little spot that we've been sitting with these hippos and crocodiles. And I hope you've all enjoyed it. But I want to say goodbye to all of you at Parkview Elementary, Parkway, I think it was, sorry. And I hope you all stay safe tonight because I know that there's a big snowstorm coming. So you all go home and you batten down the hatches, all right? And be careful because we want you back on the drive tomorrow again, all right? All right, but for now, we'll say goodbye to you and you have a lovely evening and we'll see you again. But we're going to stay right here with the hippos for a little while longer. And in the meantime, we're going to send you on over to Taylor and see how she's getting on.
I remember that one time that Alice said she was going to sing the ident tune for me, and then she never did. Welcome back to work, Alice. Alice has been on holiday, but she's back in final control again. Welcome, of course, back to the Sunset Safari. It was really nice having the school drive. It's always fun chatting to all the youngsters and passing on some knowledge and some humor. Now, we're driving. I didn't find the malachite kingfisher and I failed in finding the jackals. I feel absolutely hopeless. But I think that malachite kingfisher was just right place at the right time. I mean, I reckon we would have seen it on a number of different occasions because that is one of my favorite birding spots. In fact, I often stop there and we see lots of woolly-necked storks. It's where we've seen the waterback and the beautiful golden light and running around one another. So it is one of my favorite spots. Pretty sure I would have seen that brightly feathered creature, but not today, well, not this afternoon. So what I thought we would do is we're on our way, we're still a little bit of a distance away, but we're going to head towards Mr. and Mrs. Hammerkorp's nest. We're going to pass that, have a quick squiz, see if there's any more building going on, or maybe they've given it a break again. And then I think we'll try and head into that area and start searching for the Ngama Pride and see if those lions are laying about. I'm sure they will be laying about. That's what lions love to do. I cannot believe how tall the grass is, even just in a few days. It's grown a huge amount. Just looking at it, it's incredible. A couple of centimeters at least. It'll almost be as tall as me in some spots now, some of these sort of wispy parts. Crazy, crazy, crazy. And it's going to get even longer, I reckon. This grass can grow quite tall. While we've right, you know our plan. James is of course walking around. He's been playing with beetles and all sorts of other critters. James, I have a request for you. Seeing as though you've had some rain, please can you find me a Bushveld rain frog?
Now, good day, everybody. Those of you not, well, you know, of an age to be that I just have termite mound. Marvellous to be back on foot again. It is a glorious afternoon out here. Please remember, keep talking to us, #SafariLive, otherwise you can use the chat stream on the YouTube feed. Ask us any questions, send us any comments that you would like to. Marvellous. What do we have over here? Shotia brachypatella. And for the last few years, very poor flowering effort been made by these trees, which make beautiful red flowers, and a very appropriate tree for this time of the year. Of course, we've just passed the New Year's Eve, and most people, of course, woke up on the 1st of January with a blinding headache on account of the overconsumption of various foods and drinks. And this tree is the perfect tree to come and sit underneath, therefore, on the 1st of January. You take a piece of the bark, you soak it in some water, and then you drink that water, and hey presto, your headache will go away. Doesn't work. Good. On we go. Now, I believe that Steve is not far from here, and he's got something that might blow away the wind.
Welcome back, and we have got an amazing bird, probably one of the prettiest birds that you find in the animal kingdom of this southern African continent. It's just disappearing there. I don't know if you can have a look at it, those of you who are into your birds. Have we seen this before? Can we add it to a list? Is it exciting? It's very exciting for me and Senzo here. We've been with it for a few minutes, and it is playing the game and staying in camera. It is the African hoopoe. Ah, just in time. Look at how it raised its crest there. They do that when they're excited, or when something. That's when we see chop. You get very excited. That's what happened there. You beautiful sort of orangey brown colors with black, and that crest unmistakable. Long beak for probing. You can see it walks around and it picks up insects either directly on the ground, or it's able to penetrate the ground with that long probing like beak. Quite a nice special adaptation for birds. A bird that has a long beak like that, you must understand beaks are in fact hands in the bird world, and a beak like that is specialized. It can do a lot of other things that some birds can do with smaller beaks, but not many birds can actually physically probe their beak into the vegetation, into the soil, looking for all sorts of grubs. You can see around, so he's quite a commonly terrestrial walking bird, but does spend most of his time sitting in trees or roosting. But the feeding habit of this bird is very characteristic. If you can see it, it's walking in a very sort of zigzag fashion, and the tracks of that bird are actually quite often mistaken. Not sure if we're going to get a better visual than that, Senzo. Has he gone behind the bush? I think so. That was an African hoopoe. Have we added to list of anybody out there? I hope so. And from one bird with an interesting beak to another, we have Taylor. I think she has something very interesting, very, very far north for you. Let's see what we've got.
Well, at the moment it's not quite so interesting, unfortunately, Steve. Your hoopoe sounded way better, but we've been talking about the Hammerkorp nest for quite some time. You may be able to hear lots of cars driving past. Everyone's going home now, or perhaps to the lion sighting, probably to the lion sighting. But nobody is home. They've gone again. Perhaps they have another house somewhere and they're just building this one up, because Hammerkorps are such hard workers, and they're constantly on the go. There's even a woodland kingfisher, not woodlands, woodland kingfisher that is chirping, but it's moved further and further away now, so we're not being able to hear it as clearly. But I think Ralph was trying to do a call a little bit earlier. What call are we going to make somebody do next? I've been trying to think. I need your help. I don't know who we're going to go to in the next segment, but maybe you can help me now. Let's start guessing. Put your requests through. What call would you like the next presenter to do? What bird call? So hashtag Safari Live, and we'll take the first response. Remember, we want to make it a bit tricky now. I'm sure you want to laugh, and the harder the bird call, the more ridiculous we're going to sound. Don't give us the easy ones. So Faith will be looking out Faith and Alice will be looking out, and then I will take whichever one comes first. I was just scrolling through my bird app now, going, that's fairly easy, and then I was trying to make the calls as well as we go along, as one does. Right. How's that highway looking? Clear. We can go. Wouldn't want to pull out in front of someone. Now, checking there's nothing there. CNAC, you're wondering what do hammerkops use to construct their nests? They use a variety of materials. They typically start off with sticks and then also lots of grass. So normally it's in a fork of a tree or somewhere grass as sort of a base, and then they start with lots of sticks as well. They get big sticks, small sticks. They're quite particular about the way that it's built, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm sure they line the inside of the nest with some softer materials too, like most birds do. So it's not anything elaborate in terms of the building materials that they do. You know, they're not like some of the swallows that are using mud to actually make nests. They're not like the weave a beautiful nest. It's a little bit different, just using sticks and things like that. Right, Faith, has anybody come up with a bird? Surely there must be somebody. Don't make me jump onto Twitter. I will find someone. Someone would have given a suggestion of a bird. There has to be. Has to be one person at least. Not one person. Oh, I'm hurt. No one wants to play the game with me. It's fine, I'll remember that. Right, in that case then, Ralph, you're... Okay, no, I'm being told to hold on. Okay, we'll take this one. So whoever suggested ostrich, here it comes. Off you go, back onto Ralph's car. And Ralph, good luck with making that call.
Thanks, Taylor. Well, I've got a range of different birds that I can call, or attempt to anyway, and we're just making our way slowly back towards the Olololo escarpment and it's a little bit bumpy, but I'd like Manu just to show you that we've got an imminent storm once more. So I'm slowly making my way back there as we see zebra and gazelle over the plains as well, but the Olololo escarpment off there in the background with the sun just shining through beautifully there. But let's start with the black-backed puffback, and if any of you don't know what bird that is, in Afrikaans the name is very apt in that they call it a sneeuwballetjie, which means, directly translated, the snowball, because he's got a little bit of black on him, but when he shows his display, he fluffs out his rump and it very much looks just like a snowball. But when he calls with his snowball fluffed out, he jumps from side to side on the branch as he goes wing, 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 wing. Good bird call that I like is the African green pigeon, which we say is like the Tarzan of the bird calls, and he does the and then he goes a quack, 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 which is not that great. But so that's those two, and I think Steve wanted me to do the orange-breasted bushshrike, which I did the other day when we were across the river, and that's the air hostess bird. That's how we remember him, because he says coffee, tea or me, but it goes. That's another good one. And the grey-headed bushshrike is quite a lot larger than the orange-breasted bushshrike, and we call him the spookvoël, or the ghost bird, because of his call which is almost like just from the Addams Family when a door squeaks open. And you can see Lurch coming through saying, "You rang." So that's all the call that he does, is just a straightforward. And then he can also do a little bit like the blackback puffback, where he goes wah, wah. Another one, the little nediki, a tiny little bird, but he sounds like when you're pumping up your tire with the old-fashioned hand pump that's quite squeaky. So he just does a... And then another one is the crested francolin, but they also call in duet, and very similar to a squeaky bed, where it goes chir 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 chir. Calling the male when he hasn't found himself a mate, because the squeaky bed doesn't quite have the right ring to it. It's just a grr, 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 with no grr, 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 grr. So it gets quite funny. Anyway, you can keep throwing all those bird names at me and I'll try and call them. I'm not scared of birds. They're not scared of me. Oh, an ostrich. Well, that, you know, an ostrich is actually one of the bird calls or sounds in the bush that they say sounds like a lion roaring off in the distance. And very often people have actually mistaken that, an ostrich for a lion. Obviously, it doesn't call as loud as a lion, but if you're sitting here in the plain and, for instance, there's an ostrich just nearby, and you hear the ostrich call, it could be like there's a distant lion off there, because it's like a like that very meaty from the belly kind of call. So here we're heading towards the airstrip, and it's obvious that there's a new couple of guests arrived, or either that or they're leaving. But very muddy still after this little bit of rain that we had. It was so we'll be battening down the hatches once we get back to camp, making sure that our tents don't get blown away or soaked. So it's always lovely. It's been another lovely afternoon drive. We're not finished just yet, and we're still going to see through these drainage lines. Maybe there's a hippo, maybe there's a lion, but we're nearly there. And while we're on our way there, let's head you on back to James and see how he's doing.
The incredible power of my vocal cords is call one out from inside this bush here. Are we ready, Wim? Was that impressive, Wim? Don't you think it was a wonderful exposition of the Bushveld rain frog's call? Shall we try it once more? Let me get right down here and have a look. Amazing. But I still can't find one in here, I'm afraid, everybody. Oh, look, Wim, there's a flying pig. I think you missed the flying pig. Okay, well, let's carry on. Oh, my radio's come off. We will continue to try and find a Bushveld rain frog. We are continuing on our quest for Tingana, the male leopard. Haven't found any of the tracks further, and apparently the Styx pride was around here this morning, so we're going to keep our eyes peeled. for them. Also our ears, because of course they could growl at us. Up ahead is Rexon. He is tracking away. He's on security and tracking detail today. But we would expect to find a Bushveld rain frog around this area because it is quite sandy and we've had some rain. And, well, it would be very nice to, deliver on Taylor's promise that she made on my behalf, which I think was quite nasty because of all the things to find on foot. That's not a particularly easy one. I was just saying how much thicker this area has got over the last little while. It's not surprising. There has been quite a lot of rain. All the grasses have come up. There are a few nice flowers, but there are lots of grass inflorescences which are so beautiful. Now, while we look at these, what I believe to be flannel weed. No, they're not. These are... what are these? They've closed up already. They're not the flannel weed, they're those other things. Oh, Judy H., I'm sorry, I must disappoint you horribly. You have told me what these are, and it's on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, if you can remind me, of course, if you'd like to. Those yellow flowers. While I...
Welcome back, folks, and we just wanted to stop here and have a look at this beautiful view that we've got of the escarpment and these clouds coming through and the approaching storm with a Balanetese tree in front. It's just a beautiful savanna-like setting, and it's just lovely to stop sometimes and switch off the vehicle and just watch in awe, because it is absolutely stunning. A lot of those Balanetese off in the distance there, and it's nice to see from this distance. You can very clearly see the browse line on the trees at the bottom. It's a very distinct line where the elephants can reach, as well as the giraffe. The giraffe normally sort of trimming it more on top, and the elephants more so from underneath. So very well pruned. It's not preened. Joy, thanks for your comment. You're saying you love that line of trees in the background there. You thought it was animals, but yeah, it is definitely a line of trees. And it's still amazing to think that the elephants have thinned these trees out, where in years gone by this could have been heavily populated by those trees. And the elephants have taken a beating on them because they've been feeding on them and pushing them over. And you can also see that there's no young ones. These trees are all of a similar age, so they were probably the bigger ones that were there when the populations started to swell. And the elephants have been hammering the smaller ones. So it's nice. It's very hazy kind of light at the moment. Still very beautiful. Now, Jilly, you're wondering if we see glowworms and fireflies in the night in the Mara. Yes, you do see the odd ones. Missed the show. Of the firefly being the male. Now the beetles, but what they do is they move around on the ground and they emit a signal, or a light signal. That colored light that you see, it's actually bioluminescence. interesting chemical in their body. But anyway, so they emit a particular signal that is very specific for the species. And the male is the firefly. He will be looking for the right signal from his same species, because there's lots of different kinds of them. So he wants to see the right female and go down and then try to woo her, and if he can, then they will mate, and so the reproduction continues. But sometimes the glowworm are actually parasites, and they will emit a different signal, and when the male comes down from a different species, they will eat him. So very interesting there, and lots to talk about with glowworms and fireflies. But we're going to stop with that subject just for the moment and send you on back to Steve.
Welcome back. We have some good news. I believe you've been having some fun with all sorts of interesting little critters and impersonations. Wonderful, wonderful afternoon we're having. We have been given some information. I'm not sure if I want to give away it all too soon, because we are not far away, but maybe I should. Maybe I should. It's just a little bit of the information, just to enthusiasm. We have been radioed by one of the other people on the concession, and they have located something big and furry. I wonder if you can guess what that might be. I'm just going to need to use the radio for a moment, so just forgive me. Stations with the Impala of Sandy Patch, come in for Steve. Thanks very much. Okay, folks, so we're going off-road now. This is amazing stuff. It's one of the privileges you have of this kind of game drive safari, the ability to drive off-road. We are following in the tracks of the vehicles that went before us. You can see two large vehicles in front of us. We're trying to minimize the damage that we could potentially cause here. We're just going to go around and see what we have lying down there on the grass. Do you prefer me to go this way, eh? Has anyone guessed it yet? You probably can't see, but they are lying down. Oh my word, folks. We have something very exciting to show you. You just tell me where you want it, my friend. Guessed it. We have got lions. Lions, lions, lions. I believe this is called the Unkuhuma pride. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But we've been on the search for some large furry cats today, and we have not been lucky this afternoon until now. And it's one of the beautiful aspects of having a radio. Having a radio enables us to cover a very large portion of land and to be able to communicate, so that anyone who finds something interesting, how's that for a yawn? Wendy asked a question: what would happen if the Unkuhuma pride met the Styx pride? Now, lions have territories which they defend quite vigorously against other lions. Oh my word, he's got a tortoise. He's got a leopard tortoise, folks. This is not a first time for me seeing this. The inquisitive nature of the lion that looks like a young male has got a leopard tortoise, and the leopard tortoise, I'm pretty sure, right now. I wouldn't be too worried though, because he is quite well protected in that shell. I have seen lions much bigger than this one trying to feed on a tortoise and spending hours with it, eventually letting it go, and the tortoise being left unharmed. Don't know if you can see the concaveness on the belly, on the inside, that side showing. That shows that that is a male tortoise, which enables him to climb on the female, allowing for his body to sort of climb onto her back for mating purposes. I'm pretty sure he's quite stressed out. He's most likely would have... Oh, and once you think you're done, another one comes along. It's almost like we play games with tennis balls and rugby balls, American footballs. The lions are very inquisitive about something that's moving, something that's got a smell. But I'm pretty sure the lion's jaws are not strong enough to crack open that shell. This is amazing stuff. You see quite young, sort of sub-adult lions there. The conditions are really, really nice for this sort of thing. There's a nice cool breeze coming. Lions like to lie on each other, like to play. They like to wake each other up. A little bit of communal grooming. Looks like an adult there that it's grooming. One of the important aspects of a pride and the structure of a pride is the grooming that they do. This is awesome. A question from Red Rip Slinger: is the tortoise dead? Looking closely, if you can go back in on that there, you can see that the feet, oh, he's got a leg. Oh, he's got a leg. The legs snap back in again. The tortoise is definitely not dead. He's not happy, but he's not dead. They do fit into that shell quite nicely, and their feet and hands, as you could call it, in the front and the back, are quite well armored and quite strong for protecting them against things such as this. I'm not going to say he's going to leave this situation uninjured or unharmed, but he's definitely not going to be a happy tortoise. Oh, the top of the shell looks a bit cracked. Can you see that? Right there in the front by the feet. It looks like they might have damaged the shell slightly. It's difficult to say, folks. I don't know how long this tortoise has been with this pride. And with them all having a go, eventually the combined weight or the combined effort, like trying to crack a macadamia nut, it is always difficult the first go. But as you keep trying, it gets easier and easier. But this is incredible stuff. It's just been pointed out that there is in fact some babies over there, so maybe we'll try and move around a bit, see if we can get a better visual. Let's find. Tom, a question for me: why do these lions eat tortoises? It's not a staple food of theirs, but lions are that they come across. They are extremely inquisitive, and they are always very, very willing to try and feed on anything they come across, even 2-week-old rotten meat. So something that's inside a shell like that should be good, yeah? Something that's inside a shell like that is just too enticing for them. Why do we eat peats? Why do we break shells to feed on things? Is it good? For something to be armored and protected like that means it tastes really, really good. Hence it has such a protective shell. Okay, folks, we've just repositioned a bit there. We are in the sighting with a couple other vehicles, but what we have there, we have a very small cub that is busy suckling. Seems to be the only one of that age here, and I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can tell me is the full makeup of this pride. Yes, it is very cute. And what's characteristic even in a youngster, those black ears. They stand out from quite a distance, and you can see how it pushes on the belly with the paws to try and activate the mammary glands. Now this cub's got it lucky. It's got an entire mom to itself, it seems. Thomas, I believe you are a new viewer and you're asking a question. Would the lions come up to the vehicle? And that is a negative. I mean, lions have been known to come closer. They've been known to come closer. I've had a lion sniff my shoe before. And if you can see past me, I have no door. I have a lion come quite close to my foot, and some have come quite close to vehicles, but you have to basically be quite stern and let them know that that's not behavior that you should be doing. And it's only the youngsters, like the inquisitiveness of those lions trying to feed on the tortoise. It's just inquisitive behavior. They're interested. What is this big thing over here? What is this big thing that's intruding on our space? And they'll come up and investigate, and a quick little abrupt sound from us will often tell them to leave us alone. But an adult like that one there, perfect example of a fully grown female lioness. She's watching us. But what's interesting, and most people don't quite understand this, what we talk about, the search image. Lions have evolved with man, and they're very, very in tune with what we look like as the two-legged, upright walking hunter. And we competed with them for a very long time in Africa, and they know us, and from 100 meters, 200 meters, they recognize our posture, our gait. But in the safari industry, what happened many, many years ago, they realized that through habituation, lions have never seen vehicles before. Probably only about 30, 40 years ago were vehicles introduced as proper safari kind of activities, and the vehicles don't seem to cause any harm. We don't chase the lions. Oh, there's some sneezing going on there, and the baby fell over, full of milk. Not quite full. You can see the belly is not extremely distended, but that's just a milk belly. He is full from suckling, and you can tell that the temperatures are quite cool, folks, because these lions are lying in the direct sunshine, which is amazing for the photographer, amazing for the viewers out there. And these lions are lying flat. Parlin comments, the baby's milking is like, indeed, anyone who attempts to go near to a lioness with a cub would be indeed causing themselves a little bit of harm, but that baby is fully secure and safe, being there close to mum and granny and whoever else might be there. This is the first time I'm seeing this pride, so it's wonderful. Only my second day in the Sabi Sands, and what are we blessed with but an amazing viewing of lions. Please, folks, keep those questions coming. I could talk to you all day about lions. It'd be nice to answer some questions, though. You can see one of the lodges at the back there, the vehicle. Those are paying guests that have come out to Africa. They're experiencing this firsthand. They can feel that cool breeze on the back of the neck coming from behind us. Philip asks a question, are first litters for lions a write-off like they are for hyena and cheetah? That's a good question. I mean, I know many lion prides that the litter is generally successful, but, you know, there's a percentage, maybe 1 out of 5 cubs will actually become adults through competition, through genetics, through other hyenas, through other lions. So I'm not too sure exactly where you're going with that question. And sad as it seems, that lion definitely looks like he's chewing the tortoise's foot. Folks, I called it badly. That tortoise has probably seen his last rodeo. And that lion does not seem to be sharing. Very, very sad day for that little fella. Leopard tortoises, one of the small 5, can live up to about 100 years. That guy doesn't look more than about 20 or so, just by the size. He's quite a small guy. a little bit bigger. I think he might have evaded the lions. But also, if you've seen a leopard tortoise from the top, you'll notice they're quite camouflaged. They look just like a rock. So often they just bypass. They're hoping for that don't move, they won't chase. Because if we know much about cats, cats tend to chase things. And I haven't seen a tortoise running very fast before in my life. As soon as they're a little bit spooked, they just sit down on the floor and turn into an immovable rock. But this guy was obviously spotted. As he is a leopard tortoise, he was spotted. And yeah, he is definitely not going to survive this encounter. I'm terribly sorry to say that. You can actually see as the lion turns around, the top of the shell is broken. Richard asks a question whether these lions eat the tortoises out of boredom or are they lazy. Lions are invariably quite lazy, but when it comes to being hungry, they will eat anything that comes by. They don't look like they've eaten a lot. Looking at the people that just through inquisitiveness, 1, 2, 3, maybe by the time the fourth sub-adult cub there got a hold of the tortoise, it finally broke open. But the adults, I've never seen an adult playing with a tortoise. I don't think the rewards are worth the effort of breaking into that shell. You can imagine trying to break a macadamia nut open with your teeth. It cannot be fun, and these lions have to survive, and they have to experience many, many years of hardship with those teeth. They're not able to go to the dentist like we are. They're not able to get their teeth removed or replaced when the time is right. So breaking a canine tooth, because that's what would be used here to break that shell, is it affects the lion's ability to subdue their prey animals, suffocation, and the ability to terminate the life force of an animal. But I think this lion is having fun. It's quite young. You can see by the nose, it's still quite pink, and it might need a toothpick. It's got a little bit of tortoise foot stuck in its mouth, and it is foaming at the mouth. I'm not quite sure if that's a response to the tastiness, or maybe there's some interesting flavor exuded by the tortoise. But I've never known of a tortoise to have any toxic flavors to it. The shell seems to be its major form of defense. But I think once the lion got a little bit of a taste, he's quite interested in finding out what else is in there. This is incredible stuff. Licks it seems quite trivial. Why does a lion lick it? Often licking for the blood when it's penetrated the skin, but I've noticed leopards and lions licking just the fur of the animal. Maybe in preparation for plucking the fur, but I've seen them licking and licking, and it's also maybe a comfort response they have, or an automatic response, a little bit of a tug of war with the shell. The lion trying to engage what we call the carnassial shear, which is that side of the mouth, the side of the jaws that are used for carving and cutting through sinew, through bone, through very thick skin. And once the lion gets those teeth on that foot, there's no chance that foot is retreating back in. So folks, we are the only ones now with this lion. So folks, we're having a few streaming issues, and the stream's going to go down very shortly, just for a few minutes or so. Please just be aware of that. We are going to stay with these lions. They're not going anywhere at the moment. We're going to try to find an even better position for you. But when the stream goes down, please just bear with us. Don't go anywhere. These lions are hungry. They are lying flat at the moment. It's still quite early in the afternoon, but the wind is blowing nicely, and they would react to any stimulus that comes their way. So please just bear with us if that does go down. Just look at that little cub. If you just get right in there on the leg, look at that